Rocky Top Insider presents the RTI Lowdown with Bob Baskerville and Chris Lowe.
Welcome. Time for another edition of the Rocky Top Insider, the RTI Lowdown. I'm your host, Bob Baskerville, joined as always by my friend, colleague, you know him best from On3 Sports, where he's always covering collegiate sports at a big level. It's Chris Lowe. CeeLo, how are you, my man?
I'm great, Bob. Good to be with you after a little of a break last weekend, but got lots to talk about. Tons and tons to talk about.
Absolutely, man. There is a lot going on. We had to take a little break last week. I had some personal travel to take care of. Got my youngest, Chris, getting ready to go to college, so we had to do some of that. But we are back at it. We appreciate you checking us out. As always, make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, the Rocky Top Insider YouTube channel, that you like and subscribe. Or if you're listening to us as a podcast, make sure you check us out that way too. And if you do, we appreciate it. Just make sure that you download us. Make us part of your regular routine. Got a great show for you today. Like Chris said, it's been a few weeks since our last show, but a lot to cover. Basketball season on the court has been over for a little while, but portal season, it's in high gear. And the Vols are showing the college basketball world a thing or two about how to navigate all of it. We'll break it down. We'll break down all the comings and goings that we've seen in just 2 weeks' time and start to imagine what the rotation will look like for this new age edition of Vol Hoops. We'll also talk a little Vol baseball, Vol football. We'll cover it all as well. But before that, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode of The Lowdown is brought to you by the Tate Insurance Group. If you're in the market for a locally based insurance professional that can help you with your home, your car, your business coverage, you don't need to look any further. Check them out. It's the Tate Insurance Group. And as always, we appreciate their partnership with the Lowdown. Topic A, Tennessee basketball dives headlong into the ever-changing game of portal combat. And they look pretty darn good at that game. Last time we did this show, CeeLo, the Tennessee basketball roster looked very, very different. All the Vols had added at that point was sharpshooter Tyler Lundblade. And at that time, the only defection from the team was Cade Phillips. Man, a lot can happen in 2 weeks' time, right?
Well, get used to it. This is the game now. This is the way the game's played off the court. I don't think it's going to slow down. And you saw last year Michigan with all new players, what they did. And I think you look around the league, it's maybe not quite the exodus that Tennessee faced, but you're going to see a lot of that going forward. And you better be ready to adapt and evolve, Bob, or you're not going to be able to keep up. And I give Rick Barnes and that staff credit. I think they knew there was some turnover coming, probably not to the extent, but as they've lost players, man, they've gone right in, and I think Tennessee's going to be able to pay. No question they're going to be able to pay a lot of money. You've already seen that with the people they've got on board. And, whereas Tennessee might have been around $9 million last year, I think you're going to see them probably go up to $15 million, maybe even more, depending on what happens. But that, again, to repeat, that is the game. And if you're not willing to play that game, you're not going to be a player come tournament time.
That's right. And so almost immediately after we recorded our last show, we saw J.P. Estrella, Bishop Boswell, Jalen Carey, Amari Evans, Clarence Masamba, and Troy Henderson all enter the portal. Henderson would ultimately return to the team, but that only left Troy and Dwayne Brown as the only players confirmed to remain from the 2025-26 roster. So to your point, we're in a new world. Let the roster rebuild begin. The Vols load up their wallet and then go all in on the transfer portal. And in less than 2 weeks' time, we have the top-ranked portal class in the country. Actually, the top-ranked if you even include the freshmen coming in, because we have 4 good ones joining us in 26. We have the top recruiting class in the country right now. It's kind of crazy to say. Let's talk a little bit about who is in the boat. We talked about briefly Tyler Lundblade on our last show. This guy, he's still a great shooter. Nothing's changed. This guy averaged 15 points a game, shot 41% from 3-point range. Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year at Belmont, 93% free throw shooter, and also hit over 100. He's one of only, I believe, 4 players returning to Division I Power Conference basketball that hit over 100 three-pointers and shot over 40% from 3-point range, CeeLo. So right off the bat, we get a guy who's about 6'5", can help space the floor, hits his threes, hits his free throws, which was something, Lord knows, did we struggle with that this year.
Well, and I guarantee you, if you were talking to Tyler right now, the thing he's most excited about is who Rick and the staff have gone out and surrounded him with. Because when you can shoot the ball the way that kid can, when you have other scorers, guys that can get their own shot, guys that can shoot the three, guys that can break people down off the dribble, then all a guy like Tyler's going to do is get more opportunities. He's going to get better looks. And as they've sort of filled in this class, he was the first. And clearly, when you look at what Rick's done, they wanted to get guys who could score. And all you had to do is go back to that Michigan game. Tennessee had no chance in that game. I mean, they just didn't. They did not have the kind of firepower offensively to match up with a team like that. If you're going to go a step further, which everybody wants Tennessee to go to the Final Four, nobody more so than Rick Barnes, you're going to have guys that can score, more than just 2. And really, you look at the teams, the 3 teams that have gone to the Final 8, there hasn't been what I would call a plethora of scores on those teams. You've had a couple of premier scores, 1 or 2. I think this team, what he's assembling, and there's still more to go, I think, you're going to have a lot of options. And with a guy like Lundblade you just mentioned, he becomes all the more dangerous when you've got guys around him that you cannot shadow him. And you cannot, load the floor to his side because other guys can score. And I guarantee you, I mean, I wasn't in those meetings, but I can promise you, as they wooed him and got him in the vote initially, Rick Barnes says, don't worry. We're going to get guys around you. We're going to bring guys in. They're going to make your life a lot easier, and that's what they've done.
Amen to that. And let's go on with some of those guys who are coming in to help. One is 6'2" combo guard Day Ames from Cal Berkeley. This guy, CeeLo, seems to me to be a professional college athlete. And what I mean by that is this will be his 4th school. He started at Kansas State, then went to Virginia. Then last year he was at Cal Berkeley, and now he's coming to Knoxville. He's also a professional scorer. This guy averaged 17 points a game at Cal this past season. Another guy that could shoot the three, shot 38% from 3-point range. And as a barometer for people out there listening, you're going to be finding unicorns if they shoot over 40% from 3-point range. Tyler Lundblade's one of those. 38% is more the average of a good 3-point shooter. So he can do that. And he's also an 85% free throw shooter too. So Day Ames is another guy that can protect in terms of another guy who can score the ball.
Yeah. And I think when you look at all these guys, there's a common denominator. Guys that can get their own shot. And certainly Day is that kind of guy. If you go watch tape on him, he also liked his ability to get points with the mid-range game. Beat his guy off the dribble, not afraid to shoot the 12 or 15 footer and get all the way to the glass. I mean, that's the thing last year, really the only guard, and this is not beating up on anybody, but the only guard who was consistently able to get to the glass and score and finish was Jacoby Gillespie. That was it. Now, I'm not saying other guys didn't do it on occasion, but I think with Day and some of the other guys that they are surrounding him with, Lundblade's probably not that kind of guy. Lundblade's more of a shooter, but again, they complement each other well. But you go watch his tape at Cal and against ACC competition, he was consistently able to do that. And there's just no substitute in today's game for being able to get your own shot, to create points, to get it to a guy, especially when you've got a couple guys like that can beat people off the dribble. And when they get into the paint or they get, all the way to the glass, they've got a chance to finish. So I think he's a guy when they set out and sort of highlighted what they wanted to get in the portal, a player like Day is exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah, it feels like we have a lot of guys who are they're guys who want the ball in their hand late, and you need a bucket. And if, to your point, it feels like we only had one or two of those guys last year with, Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament, and that was about it. Day-Day's a guy, I've seen some of his video. He's hit some game winners for Cal just this past season, may have done it prior at some of his other schools too. But this guy is definitely a bucket that's just out there waiting to happen. The guy that I've gotten very, very excited about, and I've had the chance to talk to Coach Barnes about it, and you may have too, Chris. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. He's a great player, but I didn't realize he was even in the portal till I saw somebody projecting that he may be coming to Tennessee. And that's 6'7", small forward / power forward / point guard. He can do a little bit of everything. Jalen Harrelson from Notre Dame. He committed to the Vols just a few days back, averages 16 points a game as a true freshman at Notre Dame. Shoots 51% from the field. He's not much of a three-point shooter, but also averages 4 rebounds a game, 3 assists per game. And watching his video, I got very excited. I got to tell you, what I see is maybe a more refined, at least at his age, a more refined version of Josiah Jordan James, just a Swiss Army knife, kind of a point forward type of player.
Scoring averages aren't everything, but when you look at all these guys coming in, versus what you lost. And again, most of Tennessee's scoring was via 2 guys last year, Nate Ament and Jacoby Gillespie. But just about everybody they're bringing in has proven that they can score at a clip much higher than some of the guys they lost. Really everybody, because all these guys are double-digit scores.
Right.
Harrelson, you're right. You watch his film, he's not a guy that's going to wow you from stand and catch three-point type guy. But, boy, he is athletic. He's a slasher. He can get to the rim. I think he's a guy in Barnes' offense, with the way they run some of those up picks and get the ball to guys that are on the elbow. He's a guy that I think will live in that 10 to 17-foot range, a guy that can finish on both sides. I mean, I remember watching some tape of him because he was what Notre Dame did. He was one of their guys. He was really their featured guy, not their featured guy. And on both sides of the court, he was pretty effective. So, again, I think compliment when you put a team together, because really what we have now is junior college. It's year to year, and you got to put a new team together. And when you do that, you don't want a lot of the same pieces. You want guys who complement each other. And I think when you look at what Day-Day does, what Jalen does, what Lundblade does, the newest addition, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Terrence Hill, all those guys are a little bit different, but they complement each other very well.
Sorry, I was muted there. I didn't want to talk silently, although you might like that, Chris. But before we get to Terrence Hill, the one guy that I do want to talk about, we have all these great kind of guard-oriented wing players, but we also have a lot to replace, with Felix Okpara most notably leaving. And I feel like Rick Barnes and the boys feel like they've gotten a reasonable facsimile. It might not be an apples to apples replacement for Felix, because that's a lot to replace. But 6'11" or 6'10" Miles Rubin from Loyola Chicago, he's joining the mix as well. This guy, 11 points per game, 7 rebounds a game, 2.5 blocks per game. Sounds like a familiar line to a guy we just said farewell to. Again, Felix Okpara, but this guy's a great rim protector. He's a little bit less physically developed by what I can see versus what Felix Okpara was. But we know how Rick is with developing players, and also when Garrett Maidenwald gets a hold of these guys as far as physical conditioning too.
Yeah, Okpara is a great example of that. Look how much he grew in 2 years. And he had such great timing. I don't think people realize how big of a factor or piece of the puzzle Felix was the last 2 years, certainly last year. His ability to guard out on the perimeter. I don't know if Miles is that kind of guy, but certainly he's a rim protector, and you got to have one. I think they need at least one more, another big guy that they can stick in there that, can be physical and be one of those guys that around the rim makes it difficult to finish. But having that guy, and the way Rick likes to play defense, you just got to have that guy. And you go back and look when Felix was not on the floor last year, if he got in foul trouble or was off the bench, their defense suffered. So having a guy like Rubin who could come in and play that same role, whether he's exactly the same player or not, but sort of be in that role, was a critical piece as they put this team together. I do think, Bob, they got to bring somebody else in at that type of position to sort of help solidify their interior defense.
Yeah, and it feels like they've got a couple of guys in mind or in sight. Now, whether they'll come here or not remains to be seen, but we'll talk about that here momentarily. We still have one more to talk about as far as portal commitments. One that just happened on Sunday. 6'3" combo guard Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU. CeeLo, this guy excites me a lot. First team All Atlantic 10 performer at VCU. He was the Atlantic 10 Sixth Man of the Year. He was the A10 Tournament Most Outstanding Player. This guy is pretty electric. 15 points a game. He averaged 3 assists per game. He shoots the three pretty well, 37%, 84% free throw shooter. Here's what I really love. All the usage that this guy had, he was 6 man, but he played starter minutes. He only averaged about 1 turnover per game. Very, very efficient with the ball. And this so far to date is the highest ranked portal addition that has happened for the Vols. This guy's he's I think ranked in most places like the top 100, whether it's 24/7 or field of 68. He's somewhere between like 16 and 18 in those rankings. So again, very highly regarded combo guard here in Terrence Hill.
And they bring him in, and he's going to play some point guard. I know he's excited about that, but excited about being off the ball some too. He has the ability to play both positions. And you get all these guys that we mentioned, all shoot free throws well. There's no substitute late in games. When you're going to win close games, the guys that handle the ball are the guys in the backcourt. And all these guys shoot 80+% from the free throw line. So having guys, like Terrence, like Day, guys that can get their own shots, guys that shoot free throws, guys that can stroke the three, they're just going to play off each other. And I know as they recruited him, Kansas was very, very interested. Tennessee felt like his ability to play both guard spots, and to be a lead guard, but at times move off that position to the other position where they can get him shots, was going to be a big part of what they want their team to look like next year.
Yeah. I'm really excited that, as legend has it too, this guy is considered by many as the guy that got Hubert Davis fired at North Carolina, because in the first round of the NCAA tournament, VCU plays North Carolina. North Carolina's up 19 at half, or their lead's as big as 19 in the second half. They were only up 11 at halftime, but built that lead to 19. Terrence Hill caught fire, forced the game into overtime. VCU ends up winning, and then the rest is history. But Hill scored 34 points in that game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I believe it was like 7 of 10 from 3-point range. So there's a lot to be excited about there when it comes to his addition to the roster.
Yeah, I think it's too. We've talked a lot about some of these guys and what they do offensively. The thing that I trust the most about that staff, certainly starting with Rick Barnes and Coach Polinsky, is they have been able to bring in guys that were offensive-minded players. You go back to Dalton Connect, Chaz Lanier. Those guys played defense too. I mean, and he taught those guys to play defense. So hopefully we're going to be getting a guest to join us here in a minute to talk a little bit more in depth about this team and the new additions. But I just think, Bob, that this team, the Rick's teams they've never suffered from playing defense. And I think the guys they bringing in, like a Terrence Hill, these guys will commit to doing that, but this team will have more offensive punch. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's, boy, if there's one thing you can say about Rick Barnes at this point, because we've watched it firsthand, he is absolutely adapted with the changes, right? Constantly. We've seen it. It feels like he learns a little something after each Elite 8 game. And I think it's fantastic, and now I think he saw it. He saw what we all saw when we played Michigan and said, we have got to have more guys. We got to be able to score the ball better. And here we are. And it looks like we're putting together a roster that's going to be very, very capable of that at this point. So with that said,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What were you going to say?
No,
Sorry.
I think when you look at the college basketball period, Tennessee got to the Elite Eight last year because they played such sticky defense, and were able to take teams out of what they wanted to do. The Iowa State's a great example of that. But that's why you bring in a Terrence Hill, you bring in a Day, you bring in a Lundblade, guys that can score,
right,
and guys that can sort of help you take that next step.
Well, I think with that said, why don't you let's do the intro. We do have a guest, and it fits in exactly perfect timing with what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah, Terrence Hill joining us on the RTI Lowdown. Terrence, Chris with On 3, Bob Baskerville, my partner. Man, congrats, first of all, for becoming a Vol. I know this was something that you had a lot of options, but just take us through your decision to come to Tennessee and sort of what was the driving factor. Terrence, you might want to hit your mute button if you're not.
There we go.
Okay. You guys, we got you, Terrence?
Got you now, man. You should be.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you now, brother.
How you guys doing, man?
Hey, congrats on being a Vol, man. Take us through your decision. What sold you on Tennessee?
Obviously the culture behind Tennessee, amazing culture, from a basketball standpoint and a football standpoint. But just seeing the roster, like you guys talked about, you guys spoke to, with all those guys that committed early and the ways they can impact the game, and I feel like they can help my game grow and I can help their game grow as well. So just sitting down with Coach Barnes and having that conversation of me, running the show with the great guys that he recruited first, it was just very impactful for me because I feel like when you get in those tough games, you got to have a team with you that can score the basketball and make big shots in those big games. And I feel like I was the guard that they needed just to lead the ship. But just having great conversations with Coach Barnes and the staff of, we're going to put guys around you just to make it easier for you just to be the player I am. So, yeah, I would say the biggest impact was having guys on that roster and that depth chart that I believe in and I can go with down the stretch.
We saw you light up North Carolina last year in the tournament, and a lot of people did. When you look at Tennessee and how proven they've been, Terrence, the last 3 years, 3 straight Elite Eight appearances, how much did it sort of factor into what you did in coming to Tennessee that you want to be part of that group to help Tennessee make that next step and be a Final Four type team?
I think it's really impactful, to be honest, just watching them in those Elite Eight Sweet 16 games. Me being myself a part of an NCAA win was just everything for me. So I know what it feels. So I want to know what it feels like to make it to those Final Fours and those national championships. So I know coming to Tennessee, I'm going to have a great chance of doing that. But just the joy and everything I felt after my first win in March Madness, I feel like just going to Tennessee, I want to feel that times 10 and hopefully get to a national championship.
Hey, Terrence, this is Bob. Appreciate you joining us, man, and welcome to Rocky Top. We're very, very excited for you to be a part of what Coach Barnes is building here. For those that are watching us or listening to us, maybe, and CeeLo was right, man, I watched you in that North Carolina game and had no idea it was going to come that we were going to be following you as a Vol, but man, you were absolutely electric in that game. But for those who might not be as familiar with your game, let them know what do you feel your strengths are? One thing that caught my eye, man, because it's rare these days, your turnover ratio is super low, dude. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of my game. Just having the ball, being the primary ball handler that's going to be able to distribute and make a lot of offense for a team. I really think I'm a pass first point guard, but a lot of people see me scoring at will. But I think now with this roster that I've signed to, I'll be able to show my playmaking side way more. I think I'm just a pass first point guard that's really able to score at will. Loves to get his teammates involved. Loves to take those big shots in big games. And just an all around leader that you need for a Final Four team.
Let me ask you this question, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's just the way it is in college basketball these days. We saw it happen here with Tennessee. When the regular season and the postseason ended, we had 9 returning players on paper, and 7 of those are now gone. And it's just the way of the world, man. They're all good dudes. Everybody loves them. But, some of this is business, but you're also, hoping to better your circumstance, I'm sure, also in terms of, where you play, what your chances are to go deep into the tournament, like you were saying, et cetera. You had I'm sure, a great relationship with Phil Martelli Jr. at VCU. But how does that feel? Is that just kind of like, man, I love playing here, I love you as a coach, but I got to move on to this next opportunity? Is that just a little surreal when that happens?
Yeah, I definitely say it was surreal to me. Like you said, I had a great relationship with my coach here at VCU, Phil Martelli. And just being here 2 years at VCU, just the culture behind everything, how the crowd is, how the fans are into the game of basketball, how much support they showed me throughout these last 2 years. Um, but yeah, I think it kind of just comes down to really being a business decision to me. Coming to Tennessee, coming to that higher level for me to get to my next step, and my ultimate goal is obviously make it to the NBA. And I think coming here to Tennessee, I don't think it's the case for everybody, but that was a big emphasize of me going into the transfer portal and looking to my recruitment this year. Was where's that spot that's gonna give me the best chance of me getting a shot at that ultimate goal for me. So I think that's why Tennessee was very impactful in my recruiting, and obviously I committed to Vol Nation.
Terrence, I don't think Coach Barnes is finished trying to surround you with impact players. How much of a recruiter do you become now, whether it's with Juke Harris or anybody else, to sort of bring these guys all in the fold?
I think I become a big part. Like you said, they already told me about Juke. Obviously, he's a great player. I think great players want to play with great players. So seeing my commitment today, hopefully he has Tennessee on his mind, and we can kind of reel him in to get this national championship team put together. But I think I'm a big part. If I want to be the point guard, I got to be able to lead these guys in recruitment and when the season starts.
Yeah, I have a quick question that kind of links into that. Because CeeLo took the question I had, because I was thinking the same thing. And that is, there's also a dude that's on Tennessee's radar, at least as we understand it, because we need to get a few more bigs. And this guy, I believe you guys spent a little time together at VCU season before last. He's currently transferring out of Texas Tech. Luke, see if I get this right. Bomboye?
Yeah, Luke Bamboye. Yep, that's my guy.
So, tell me about him a little bit, because that's another one, seems to be a person of interest for Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Luke Bamboy is a great player. Like you said, we probably need one more of those type of bigs that can protect the rim and be a lob threat for us, and just add great size to our team. But yeah, he's a great player. Everything you would ask for a shot blocker, and just being a high motor kid in college basketball at that 5-man spot. But I'm gonna try to get in contact with him. Hopefully we can work something out. Hopefully we can.
Well, kudos to you. That name is that one's a thinker for me to pronounce, so I got to get used to that if we happen to get him.
If you get him, Terrence, tell him I said that they need to up your NIL, whatever it is. You get like a little bit of a stipend.
I get a little bonus. If
you get him in the boat. Hey, let me ask you this: as you watch the college game now and the way it's evolved, and you look this year at guys that can score the basketball. When you look around at what you guys are assembling, and I'm sure you've seen film of some of these guys, and Coach Barnes just talked to you about it. How much do you think this lineup right now, just what you've got in the fold, do you guys complement each other?
I think we complement each other very well. That was one of the main reasons looking at the roster coming to Tennessee, why I was very intrigued of coming here and very excited as well. But yeah, like the guys Jalen Harrelson, a great player, a great playmaker, can really do a lot of things on the offensive end and can provide us a lot of length on the defensive end. We got Miles Rubin. I've played against him. I've seen him play the last 2 years. Obviously, he was in the A-10 with me. But yeah, elite guy. I feel like I'm going to play really well with him. Kind of familiar with each other's games, so it might be more easier to gel, with a big and a point guard back there. Day Ames, he's a killer, man. I love the way he plays. I think we can complement each other very well in the backcourt. Him playing off me playing off him, and also me just getting him easier shots this upcoming year, making it the game easier for him, and I know he will for me as well. But yeah, just me being that lead guy back there, kind of running the show and having everybody just shine the most what they do best. I think we have a great thing coming forward.
I think that's kind of interesting too, Terrence, from the standpoint. I think there's some people who are watching this roster construction develop, and people are like, okay, they look at numbers that you've had at VCU, they look at numbers Day-Day's had at Cal, and they're kind of saying, well, we're used to at Tennessee, at least in the past, we've had between Zakai Ziegler, more recently, Jacoby Gillespie, having these point guards who, everybody looks at it like, okay, that's a point guard. And some people are thinking that we may not be getting that kind of player. I don't buy it. And I would also say, in terms of kind of modern basketball, between you and Day-Day, also Jalen Harrelson, who can distribute the ball. I mean, this feels like it opens up a lot of different opportunities, man. You got to feel like you got to be licking your chops for this one.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, those guys being able to play make. I really think I could distribute as well, but also
Yeah.
anybody else has seen my scoring ability. So me playing off the ball is no struggle for me. Just getting used to those guys, playmaking for me and getting me easier shots as well. But yeah, I have no worry with that. Obviously, I've talked to the coaching staff about me and Day just being in the backcourt together. It doesn't matter really who brings it up because we're all on the court at the same time.
Right.
But yeah, just having those weapons of me being able to score anytime, him being able to score at will, and also the facilitation, like you said, is very impactful. So I think the scouting report.
Do we lose him?
No, you still there, Terrence?
We might have lost Terrence. We still got you, Terrence. We might have lost him there briefly.
Yeah, we'll give it a second. We'll just leave it up for a second, though.
Well,
I think
great insight by him about what he feels like this roster is going to look like and where
You
he
guys
fits
cut
in.
out on me. I don't think I can hear you.
Okay, we got you now. We got you now, Terrence. You got us?
Can you hear us, Terrence? Checking Terrence. You there? Yeah, I think we might have lost him.
Well, if we lost, we're sorry, Terrence. We certainly appreciate him joining us. But no, I was just saying, Bob.
Yeah, I cannot hear you guys. I don't know what happened.
That's all right, man. We'll drop him a text, but I think I only had one more question for him anyway, CeeLo. So I think we're good. We'll just make sure.
Thanks. Sorry about the technical difficulties, as they say in business, but it sure was good to get him on and just sort of hear his, from his perspective, what he thinks this roster is going to look like.
I agree.
That's pretty cool. We sit here as people, the media and the fans, and look at, hey, well, this guy fits here, this guy fits there. But to hear Terrence sort of break it down, why he chose Tennessee, the different options, where he fits, being able to play both guard positions. He's played against, a couple of these guys. He's clearly watched them play. I think sort of at least gives you a little bit of a glimpse of what this team may look like next year.
Definitely. I think he's back. I at least want to thank the guy, right? Let's. I'm going to try to add him here real quick. So hold on. All right, Terrence, you there?
Yeah, I think I can hear you guys now.
Great. Awesome. Sorry about that.
All good. All good.
Hey, I had one more question for you, and I'm glad you were able to bounce back here. One of the things we as fans and guys that cover this team, we love seeing what Coach Barnes is doing with, really amping up the offensive approach for this team, because again, we saw it in the Final Four this year. I mean, it's the way of the world. So I use that term table stakes because I think another part of table stakes for you is going to be, man, you play for Rick Barnes, you're going to have to get after it on defense too. And but we've seen that happen with guys that are big time scorers. Dalton Connect was a great example. Doesn't mean you can't play D well already, but he will take you to another level. And I would think that for you, when you're looking about, you're thinking about ambition beyond college, that's got to be something that really interests you.
Yeah, like you said, that was a big part of their recruitment for me is, taking that next step on and being able to display my defensive tactics and ability. So coming here, I know, like you said, Rick is going to push me for sure on that side of the ball. But I think just having great players around me that want to defend and want to lock in and be on the same page as well would be very impactful. But yeah, like you said, after college ambitions, that was a big thing that being at my size, that I had to lock in on and just take to a whole nother level on that defensive side to lead a team and obviously get where I want to get to.
Well, Terrence, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Sorry about the little glitch there. But when do you hope to get on campus?
Most likely May 15th. We're working some things out right now, but I'm trying to get some knowledge as soon as I can.
Well, man, safe travels, and it's great catching up. Look forward to seeing you in Orange soon enough, and how this roster continues to take shape, because I don't think they're done yet, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys for having me.
All right.
Thank you so much, Terrence. Take care, man. All right. That was good, man. That was good. Got
Well,
one.
again, you can hear it. You know, sometimes I've done this a long time. You talk to kids, and I don't want to say that there's a lack of confidence or they just sort of don't know what they're getting into. You can tell and hear his voice and talking to him, man. He's full steam ahead. He understands what the stakes are at Tennessee. He understands why they're bringing him in. He understands the level that this program has gotten to over the last 3 years, and he very much wants to be a part of it. Now, you still got to go do it on the court. You still got to prove it, but it won't be his first taste. You get on the big stage and you take down to North Carolina the way he and VCU did last year, I don't think he's going to be intimidated by anything he sees. But I think that was, you talk about body language, well, there's voice language too. And you could sort of hear it in his voice how much he's chomping at the bit to get here and be a part of taking Tennessee basketball to yet another level.
Yeah. It's an exciting time, man. You know, what's funny is we're doing this show today and we're going to talk a little more basketball. This is a football school, right? But right now, spring football, we'll talk a little about that before the show ends. But, man, basketball has become front and center. And I think that's a testimony to, again, what Rick Barnes has built. And, I mean, the level of interest from everybody I run into. I was seeing some guys at the gym yesterday, and th're like, who are we going to get, man? What's next? It's
right.
like, it's a little nerve wracking because you don't know. Juke Harris is a great example. We'll talk about him in a minute, but you don't fully know until they sign on the dotted line. But man, when you start putting together a team like we're seeing Rick put together now, it's pretty darn exciting.
Yeah. And the thing is, there are no guarantees. And I think you look around the country at teams that spent a ton of money. Kentucky was over $20 million last year. You see what Louisville has spent this year on 2 players. It doesn't guarantee anything. And I think Tennessee has been very careful, very calculated at who they've gone to get. And they understand that just because you bring in a guy and pay a lot of money, and they brought in Jalen Carey last year. Carey was not much of a factor. Paid him a lot of money, just south of $1 million. Now, to his credit, because I hate when fans and media pile on kids after they leave. Because, if I had a son right now who could triple or quadruple what he was making and go somewhere else, it'd be hard for me to say, wag my finger and say, you shouldn't do that. But Kerry did not play at that level throughout the season. Now, to his credit, he played his best basketball in the tournament. And I don't know that Tennessee beats Virginia without his effort. So, none of this is a guarantee that any of these kids are going to come in and be all world or be what you think they're going to be. I mean, it's very much an NBA professional mindset now. You sort of set what you think a player's value is as far as retaining kids or bringing them in. And very simply, the kids that left, and they all got good deals. They all went to big-time schools, whether it's Bishop Boswell, Carey, J.P. Estrella, Amari Evans. But you sort of set that value. All right, this guy we feel like is worth this. And if they want more or think they can get more, then as a staff, as a head coach, you got to say, you know what, we're not going to overpay. We think we can do better or as good or go out and get guys who are more proven scorers. I think no matter how you size it up, Bob, Tennessee, on paper anyway, has gone out and they've gotten more scorers who've proven it, at a big-time level than who those guys that got away. Does that mean it's all going to shake out the way you want it to on the court? I don't know. But certainly, if you are a proven guy and you scored at a high level in the ACC, in the NCAA tournament, like a kid like Terrence Hill did, you at least know that. And it's different than going and getting a high school player where you're sort of projecting what he's going to do at the collegiate level. So that's what I would say. Yeah, you hate to see kids like Bishop Boswell. He played his rear end off for Tennessee. He really did. And he's a guy that was limited offensively, but played his role. I think Amari Evans has a chance to be a really good player. Estrella was good. He was hurt, and I don't know that we ever got to see him at his best. And then a guy like, as I said, Kerry just did not play to the level that they felt like he would play the entire season. Again, he played very well in the tournament. So, when you lose guys like that, you hate to see them go because you're not going to see teams develop over 2 and 3 years the way we used to in college basketball. But you got to go out and you got to try to sort of recruit over them. And I think from a scoring standpoint, we'll see how it all fits together. That's exactly what Tennessee's done.
Yeah, I think so. I see it. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute about what we envision maybe a lineup could look like. Because we just saw a team spend a bunch of money last season and it didn't go that well. And that was Kentucky. So to your point, it looked on paper when Kentucky was bringing all those players in last year. It was like, man, they're spending a lot of money. It looks really, really good. Turned out they had a lot of guys that couldn't shoot. I don't think that's going to be our problem here, but like you said, there's some unknowns for sure, but sure feels exciting right now. Before we get any further, let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor. That's the Tate Insurance Group. They are somebody who we are very, very fortunate to be working with and appreciate their support as always. They are your local insurance team and proud to call East Tennessee home. And just like our Vols, they know what it takes to overcome obstacles, to give their all, and to show true volunteer spirit for our community. Whether it's home or auto or business coverage, they provide personal service that you can count on. And again, they care about what you care about, and that's because this is where they live too. Tate Insurance Group, local, trusted, always in your corner, right here at home. If you want to learn more, you can go online, check out their website at tateinsurancegroup.com. You can also call them if you're so inclined. Their number is area code 865-862-8233. That's 865-862-8233. Scott and the team there will take good care of you. Check them out, the Tate Insurance Group. All right, CeeLo, we'll continue on with basketball because you touched on it a little bit. We had all these guys move on. And like Terrence said, I wanted to get his take on the psyche of all that. Mm-hmm. It's a business decision, really, at the end of the day. And for some of these guys that left our fold, they went for more money. J.P. Estrella to Michigan, Bishop Boswell to Maryland. So 2 guys going to the Big Ten. Then we got guys going in our conference. Jalen Carey, who you mentioned a few minutes ago, to Missouri. Cade Phillips to Texas A&M. Amari Evans to Texas. Clarence Masamba is in the portal, but his status is TBD. There's been rumors back and forth that he may be coming back to Knoxville. We're not sure yet.
I think there's a pathway. I think there's a pathway for him to come back. I do believe
that'd be good. Yeah, and I'd like to see that, to be honest with you. And then Ethan Berg is he's made the decision to go back home, I presume to play ball, but also to be closer to his family in Israel. Mm-hmm. And we thank him for his time here and wish him the best because there's a lot going on in that part of the world as well.
The thing I hate the most, and again, I'm showing my age. I remember back when Michael Jordan played 3 years of college basketball at the same place. Ralph Sampson played 4 years at Virginia.
Right.
Dale Ellis played 4 years at Tennessee. Those days are gone. And I think for those of us who want to be, nostalgic about the good old days, well, the good old days are different days. And that's why I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you're impressed by the way Rick has evolved, his staff has evolved. They didn't cry over spilled milk. And a lot of these were not basketball decisions. Tennessee is a proven program that has gone to 3 straight Elite Eights. And, right. If you're a Bishop Boswell, if you're a J.P. Estrella, if you're a Cade Phillips, and I can't put myself in those kids' shoes, but when you're making these decisions, it's not, and this is the thing, because I get a lot of these questions. I know you do too, Bob. Well, why would they want to leave? Tennessee's got it going. Well, they make decisions based on factors other than just basketball. So much of it is financial and role, because some of these kids would have been probably asked to take on different roles. I don't know that Bishop Boswell would have been a starter next year. I don't know. I mean, I think that was certainly a possibility. He may have been more of a bench player. That doesn't mean diminish what his value was to the team this year. But you've got to sort of reevaluate your team every year. Who you can get in the portal, who you can bring in. And what was Tennessee lacking? Tennessee was lacking scoring punch. Rick Barnes is a Hall of Famer. He doesn't need me to tell him that. And that's what they went out and identified. Bishop's going to get close to $2 million at Maryland. And if he can get that, good for him. He wasn't going to get it at Tennessee. Cade Phillips is going to get a ton of money. About two guys who are making close to $300,000 at Tennessee. They weren't going to get that at Tennessee.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're bad kids or that you should dump on them. That's just, it wasn't going to work out here. You wish them well. And the funny thing is, I think every one of those kids are going to play against Tennessee next year.
It's true.
Former fashion, which will be interesting to see how that goes. We're going to see a lot more of that as we go forward in college basketball. Kids playing against their old team. I think you look forward, though, and you look forward and say, hey, let's see how this new team develops and appreciate what this team has done over the program the last 3 years, and appreciate what those kids did to help them get there. But it is a business more than it's ever been, and you cannot go against your beliefs and your system and pay more than what you think you should pay just to keep a guy in the fold. And I think that's sort of where Tennessee is right now with a lot of the guys that left.
Yeah, I believe that too. I think that you nailed it. I think for some of these guys, Bishop was one. I'd say the same for Amari Evans. I think money is obviously a motivator,
Right.
but role and playing time was also top of the list. I mean, Amari had shown some real ascension in the back half of the season. Hell, he had 27 points, wasn't it, against Vanderbilt in the last home game?
Sure did.
And so that's a player that was a little bittersweet for me, but I get it. He's probably thinking, man, with all these other guys coming in, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get as much playing time. And of course, the money's important too. These guys all landed in pretty good spots, I think, based on what I'm seeing. Man, Missouri's going to kind of maybe take a page out of our book this year. Next year, they're going to be very, very big. Bryson Tiller from Kansas is going to Missouri as well. And now with Jalen Carey there, they might be doing a little more of that bully ball approach. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
I'll look at it like this, Bob. The portal giveth and it taketh away. And the one thing that's different with Tennessee is, their last two really big portal gets were kids that played at smaller schools. Dalton was at Northern Colorado, Chaz Lanier with North Florida, kids who were clearly under-recruited and developed and got even better in Rick Barnes' system and ended up getting drafted. Well, this year you got some guys that are coming from power or programs that aren't necessarily mid-major. Day comes from Cal. Now, Lundgrade comes from Belmont. Terrence comes from VCU. But a guy like Day, as I said, Harrelson comes from Notre Dame. If they get Juke Harris, he comes from Wake Forest. So I think you're starting to see more of that. A lot of guys always looked at it like, you know what? Jacoby Gillespie is a great example of that. He starts at Belmont. He goes to Maryland. He finishes his career at Tennessee. Hey, I'll show what I can do at the mid-major level, and then I'll move up. This year, Tennessee's gone and gotten some guys who played at the, a step above mid-major, and we'll see how it all shakes out. I'm excited to see what this team can do, because I do think for the first time since Rick's been there, and not going back to the early years when you had Admiral and Grant on those teams and some of Jordan Bone, but in the last couple of years, this looks to be, especially if they can add a Juke Harris, this looks to be as well-rounded a scoring basketball team. And I'm not saying they're going to be the best offensive team they've had, but as far as balance and well-rounded, this has a chance to be as well-rounded a scoring team as he's had. Now, how does that shake out defensively? I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's talk about what the team is going to look like, at least as we know it right now. We've talked about everybody who's departed. There's a couple guys left from last year's team. Dwayne Brown never apparently was a threat to enter the transfer portal, and we're certainly thankful for that. Troy Henderson, as we mentioned, he entered the portal and was right back in the fold with Tennessee in a very short order. So I've heard some backstories there. I think maybe, they might not have been totally simpatico with their agent, et cetera, but Rick's been very high on Troy Henderson, and I'm happy to hear that. He's I think got a lot of potential still as a point guard. So Troy's coming back now. Nate Ament technically is still with the program, and at some point soon, he's got to announce his intention if he wants to enter the NBA draft. That doesn't mean that it's all over, but you at least have to announce your intention. And hey, we can dream, right? I mean, imagine all these guys we're talking about coming in, and it's highly doubtful in my opinion, but I could be wrong. But I've talked with some of the coaches. I think there's a line of division where Nate would say, okay, and his family would say, okay, this doesn't make sense. Maybe we will come back, but he's highly regarded still by a lot of NBA execs. So we'll have to see. Time will tell, but we're getting closer to that moment in time.
Yeah, I'll start with Henderson. Henderson's going to have shoulder surgery, so he's going to be out for a lot of the offseason. You hope that doesn't set him back too much. But that is going to be there's a time period there where he's not going to be able to do a whole lot. As for Nate, I think he's going to be in the NBA next year. I think he's going to be at the end of the day, he'll be drafted between 8 and 12. And there's no way if you're going to go somewhere in that range, it's a bad business decision to come back. And I think he's been told that. He that family trusts Rick Barnes implicitly. And Nate loves Tennessee. He's enjoyed going to school at Tennessee. He enjoys playing for this school and the fans. And it's just more, hey, he's got a chance to go make millions of dollars. And, when that chance comes along, then you take it. Is there a sliver of a chance that he could come back? Yeah, I think if he were to get in the draft and start getting feedback that he could slip to 13 or 14 or 15, then I think he would like to come back. I don't think that's going to happen. And you know what? I don't think Rick Barnes thinks that's going to happen. I think he feels like with the feedback he's gotten and Coach Polinsky that he will be a top 8 to 12 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I think so too. I heard from someone who saw him on campus going to class just a couple of days ago. So he is definitely not checked out. You know what I mean?
No, he hasn't.
And if you know Nate at all, it sounds like that shouldn't surprise you at all. He's a great kid.
If you spend any time around his family, you know why Nate is the way he is. His mom and his dad, and his siblings. I mean, he is, his just a great family. And Rick told me from the get-go when they signed him, he says, "Man, you're going to love his family," and they're great. So I just hope that kid gets everything he's got coming to him. And the only thing I hate is the fact he wasn't 100% in the postseason because he played his butt off down the stretch and his ability to score. It'd been great to see him at 100% in the tournament.
I think I might have told you we had Greg Polinsky on the radio show a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things GP said, and of course he's got all the ties with the NBA folks. He said that he believes there's some NBA personnel who saw the fact that Nate was playing injured and saw that as a plus, saying it meant that much to that kid. So imagine what he would want to do, if he's playing for an NBA team. So in a weird sort of way, that might have actually helped his draft stock in the eyes of some because it just speaks to the kind of teammate and person he is. So we've already talked about the transfers that are coming in that we know of at the moment. So you add those 5, Hill, Harrelson, Ames, Rubin, and Lundblade to Dwayne Brown and Troy Henderson. You have 7 players. Then there's incoming freshmen, 4 of them. Ralph Scott, Manny Green, both 4-stars. Marquise Clark, a 3-star out of Chicago. And then newest commit, this kind of got buried in the midst of all the other news last week, but Chris Washington Jr., who was originally an Alabama commit, an in-state guy out of Tennessee, 4-star, 6'8", tough player. He's now going to be a Vol. My only question to you, CeeLo, is how many years will these guys actually play at Tennessee, given this new era of college basketball we're in?
Who knows, man? It's just how they develop, what role they play. I do think, though, and I know Rick Barnes believes this, you still got to recruit the high school. You can't just live year to year and bring in 7 or 8 guys or 9 guys every year. You've got to sort of at least have a base of high school kids. Will we see a Jemima Ishak or Zakai Ziegler playing all 4 years again? Probably not. I'd say the chances are not great, but you certainly would love to see, like Dwayne Brown's a great example. You'd love to see how he develops over the next 2 years. I know Rick felt like he was as good a surprise as any last year. And they were top heavy with post players, but he's going to get much more of a chance to play and continue to develop. But I don't know. I mean, I know you still got to recruit the high schools and see how those guys develop and how they fit in what you're doing.
Yeah, most definitely. And to your point, what you said a few minutes ago, and you're absolutely right. And we might have talked about this, but this past season, Purdue, their basketball team had 4 seniors who played all 4 years at Purdue. I don't know if we'll ever see that again in this new era. Maybe you see 1 on a team. You're not going to see 4 that play 4 full years and develop a relationship with the fans. And just feels like John Calipari's been doing it that way for a long time. So Kentucky fans are more conditioned for that than we are as fans, but we better get used to it, right?
And, you mentioned Purdue. Braden Smith was one of my favorite college basketball players over the last couple of years. And
yeah,
he had all sorts of chances to go, turned down tons of money and stayed at Purdue. I'm sure he was handsomely rewarded there. It's not like he, got a $10 per diem every day to stay at Purdue. I'm sure he got tons of money too, but he could have gone elsewhere and he didn't. And you love to see that. And I don't think it's wrong to celebrate that, Bob.
I agree.
And yet say, hey, but if he doesn't want to, or his teammate wants to go elsewhere, more power to him. It's the system that's created. Don't blame the kids. They didn't create this system.
That's right.
It's the system we're in now. But I do think that those types of players, in Zakai and Jemai would certainly be like that too, staying at one school for a long period of time, is probably over with the sums of money. Hey, as a buddy of mine who's in basketball told me, a coach, I won't mention his name, we were talking last night, he said, there's never been a better time, or what a great time it is to be a college basketball player right now. You've got kids out there that are averaging. Tennessee just lost a few, 4 and 5 and 6 points a game and 7 points a game. They're going and making millions of dollars, in some cases $2 million elsewhere. I wish I could drop about 50 pounds and go back to 18 years old when I was in high school. I'm obviously a jest, but what a great time to be a younger college basketball player. All the opportunities that are out there for you to make some serious cash.
We're doing it all wrong, CeeLo. We missed the boat. Got to tell you.
Well, our good friend Tony White, he's got the best line. He says, man, he said, these cats out there averaging 4, 5, 6 points a game, and they're making $2 million. He said, I averaged 24. He said, they had NIL when I was in school. What would I gotten? 10, 12, 15 million? And I said, maybe.
Yes.
You deserved it.
No doubt. All right, so back to the Vols. We talked about who's coming in from the portal, who's returning from last year's team. There's still some players in play, and these are the known players that are in play. We've mentioned Duke Harris. Tennessee apparently still very much in contention for the 6'7" small forward, 3-level scorer. I would argue at this point, CeeLo, that's the top remaining asset in the transfer portal. I mean, he is the best available guy. There's still chatter about Michigan being in the mix, North Carolina in the mix. Some people said Kansas might be trying to enter the chat just because things are not going so well for Kansas and Kentucky. The Blue Bloods are struggling a little this year, but Tennessee very much in play still for Duke Harris.
Yeah, and Tennessee was number 2 out of high school for him. I know his mom, big fan of Rick Barnes and the way Rick runs his family, runs his program. I think the family, period, likes Tennessee. So we'll see. I mean, there's still some feel that maybe I don't know where he would go in the draft, but that may be a possibility too. But I like Tennessee's chances with him. I think they're right there with Michigan and or UNC. He's a Salisbury, North Carolina kid. It's about a 4-hour drive. I actually my first job was right there near Salisbury, North Carolina, to Knoxville. So it's but you never count those kids, I think, out, those North Carolina kids from going to Chapel Hill. So We'll see how that all shakes out. But no, he certainly would be the big fish out there right now when you look at the transfer portal for Tennessee.
Yep. They're also in Tennessee, that is, on a 6'9" big guy by the name of Jaden Hastings from Boston College. It does feel like we need to shore up our interior a little bit. And it's not even so much about scoring, but about rebounding and rim protection and defense. We talked about Miles Rubin. Jaden Hastings is 6'9", very athletic, really just a physical specimen, averaged about 7 points, 6 boards, 1.5 blocks per game at Boston College. I have to believe that there's some linkage here with a guy we hadn't even mentioned, another change with Tennessee basketball. New assistant coach Earl Grant joined the program last week, came in from Boston College. He was Jaden Hastings' coach this past season.
Yeah, but Bob, I thought Tennessee was a guard short last year when I watched him practice for the first time back in, I don't know, it was June. No, that was before Ethan Berg had gotten on campus. I think as I look at their roster right now, they need at least one, probably, I think they need 2 more bigs.
Yeah.
In addition to the kid you just mentioned, somebody else, because you think of the team this year, even when they got in foul trouble this year, and they were pretty deep in the front court. Not as deep once Cade got hurt.
Yeah.
But when they got into foul trouble this year, it got dicey at times. So I think they got to get at least 2 more bigs, guys that can rebound the basketball, guys that can play tough interior defense, and guys, when you get it in there, can finish. That was the big frustration this year with Tennessee is they had trouble finishing in the paint. They did all year long. And some games are a little bit better than others. But, man, if we count up the bunnies they missed inside 4 or 5 feet this year or shots that they had blocked,
yeah,
you think about how many points that would be. So I think having guys that can come in, they don't have to score 10, 12 points a game, but when they get the ball in good position and they go inside, they got to be able to finish those shots in the paint.
Yeah. Well, and Hastings, by the way, is coveted by some other schools. He's visiting Cincinnati and then also Vanderbilt, but is reported to be visiting in Knoxville this coming week. And then the guy we mentioned when we were talking with Terrence Hill, Luke Bamboye from Texas Tech. This guy, if you watch his video, you see it. Super athletic, 6'11", so he's big. Only played in 21 games due to injury for Texas Tech, but he had some moments when he had high usage. He had some dominant lines, like 12, 13 points, 8 rebounds, blocks a lot of shots. On the season, he only averaged 4.5 points a game, 3.5 rebounds a game, 2+ blocks per game. But he's shown some flashes that, again, a little bit raw, but could be very, very, just really, really highly regarded athletically speaking. Interesting what Terrence had to say about him too, because those two spent time together at VCU season before last. So there you go, right there. 2 big guys. If we could get those, Chris, I think we're all set. We're going to win a national championship. Mark it down.
I'll let you tell Rick that it's national championship or bust next year.
Yeah.
Listen, the new. I go back to high school recruiting when I first started this business, back before the internet, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I get calls all the time about visits in football. Who's coming in? Where's you ranked? And now it's portal, especially in basketball, because 2, 3, 4 guys change the scope of what you look like in basketball dramatically.
Right.
And it's always the new that's the new what's coming in that fascinates basketball fans and football too, but certainly basketball, because it's fewer guys can make a difference. So we'll see how it, as I've said a couple of times now, we'll see how it all shakes out. I do have a lot of confidence in this staff though to be able to mesh it all together. They've done that pretty well so far. This probably will be the biggest upheaval of any they've had. So maybe even to some degree more challenging, but they're going to have more pieces. I think more pieces offensively to sort of mix and match and get it right, Bob.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up by saying, because we want to get a little baseball in, what I would call the swinging for the fences, talking about baseball, the swinging for the fences play for Tennessee. There's a couple guys. We've been talking about bigs. A guy that Tennessee apparently has been in contact with, but so are many other schools. It's a 7'2" Mustafa Tiam from Cincinnati. A lot of big programs looking at this guy. My biggest concern there is the guy's a player. It's more, can the economics work? We're talking about a big budget already. And particularly if we get Juke Harris and some other things, it's going to be a tough one. And then I got to mention his name because everybody's been talking in vagaries about it, but everybody knows who we're talking about. But the fact of the matter is this kid's not even in the portal. So let's just say that. Tyler Tanner. His name has been bandied about all over the place. And who knows in terms of what Tennessee's level of interest is. People have differing points of view on if that's real or not. this much we know: by Tuesday night at midnight, if Tyler Tanner's interested in going into the portal, he has to declare. So we're going to know pretty soon, for better or worse, if he's even in the mix. But obviously a fantastic player. He would move to the top of the list of best available portal assets if he entered the portal.
I thought he was as good a point guard down the stretch as I saw last year. He was tremendous in Nashville at the SEC tournament. I don't think Vandy lets him get away. I don't see any way Vandy lets him get away. They will pay what they need to pay. Now, unless that kid's just dead set on going somewhere else, and I don't know that. But if just in talking to people in the industry and college basketball, most of the people I talk to say they have a hard time believing that Vanderbilt will let him get away.
Yeah, I would think so too.
And I wouldn't. There's no way. I'm Mark Byington, man. I whatever you got, whatever it takes, you keep a kid like that from Nashville who made the kind of jump he did last year. Remember, he was not a dominant, dynamic player in his first year, and look at what he did last year. I mean, think about what he'll be in his third year. So I just don't see him letting that kid get away.
No, I agree. And then I'll put a bow on all this by saying, with Juke Harris, back to him for a second, I don't think we mentioned this. He's going through the whole NBA process. So my point in that is we may not hear firm direction on him for a little while, right?
Yeah, but if he tells Rick Barnes he's coming to Tennessee, I promise you, Tennessee they'll find the money to pay him, whether it's in a week or 3 weeks or whatever. He is a priority.
No doubt. Next time we do the show, we'll go through. I did a little bit of this on X today, and my God, the engagement, like I was saying, everybody's interested in this. It was through the roof. And that was kind of contemplating what a starting five would look like for this team based on what we know just now. It doesn't even include the prospect of Nate staying, if that were to happen, or if we get Juke Harris, or all those things. So we can spend some time on that next week, because that could be probably a segment all unto itself. I mean, it's a pretty fun dilemma, let me tell you, thinking about this. It's kind of fun to think about what can be. It's nice. It's nice.
I think you're going to see they played big a lot of times this year. Sometimes they started three guys that were, a lot of times, they were 6'10" or bigger. Now, one of those was Nate. He was more of a stretch three guy. I think you're going to see more length. You're going to see more guys out there that are 6'3" to 6'7". I think Dwayne Brown certainly is inside, the big kid, the shot blocker. I think you're going to see more situations where you may have four guys out there that are somewhere between 6'2" and 6'7".
Yeah, I'm just imagining the dilemma. It'd be a great dilemma for Rick, but if we do get Juke Harris, between him and Harrelson and Lundblade and all these guys, you can only start 5 of them, man. So that'll be the biggest challenge, is picking
it's who's on the floor at the end of the game that counts, man. That's
very true.
And that's where, when you've got 2 or 3 or 4 options coming off the bench, that's where, as a basketball coach, you love it. And maybe some guys off, some guys not playing as well, some guys in foul trouble. Having those 2 or 3 options off the bench to be able to finish a basketball game is a basketball coach's best friend.
Absolutely. All right, let's pivot to baseball as we wind the show down. Quickly, recap of the week. First of all, we didn't do the show last weekend, like we said. We would have been having some good news to talk about. A super critical sweep for the baseball Vols of Mississippi State and Starkville. I think a sweep that nobody saw coming, but it really reset the paradigm on what could happen with this team if they kept the momentum going. And it continued in their midweek win. They had an 11-1 run rule win over UNC Asheville, but we knew it was coming this weekend. Big series against Ole Miss right here in Knoxville. Ole Miss, very good team. Friday night, the Vols lose 7-4. Early back-to-back home runs by Ole Miss in the third inning put the Rebels ahead for good. This one, CeeLo, Landon Mack was uncharacteristically, I wouldn't say bad, but it was a rough outing. 6 earned runs and 5 1/3 innings pitched. And then on Saturday, the Vols lose what I thought was a great game. They lose 8-1. It was scoreless after 6. Tegan Coons, I thought, pitched fantastically. Ole Miss had a 2-0 lead late, but then they put it away with a 6-run 9th inning. The big thing there was the Vols kind of went back to their ways. What won it for them in Mississippi State and Starkville last week was hitting the ball, man. They had 35 hits over the course of that 3-game series. Saturday night against Ole Miss, Tennessee had 2 hits for the entire game.
I still think this team though has the starting pitching to make a run, and we talked about this earlier. If Tennessee can get to a regional with their 3 starters, and yeah, I mean, it may not have been perfect this weekend, but you look over the course of the season so far, they have pitched well enough with their stars that they should have, I don't know, at least 2 more, if not 3 more wins. And
Right.
if you get into a regional with 3 strong stars, now Zeller did not pitch well yesterday, but he has the entire season. You know, you're not going to pitch lights out every game. But the way Blanco is pitching on Sundays to get Levi Clark's back going, I think, you know, when you start looking at bats in that lineup, he's the guy that has a ton of pop that just has not been able to get going. Maybe today is that sort of what he needed to get going.
Mm-hmm.
They've won 8 games, Bob, in the conference. I think they've got to get to 13 to get in. 14 would absolutely get them in. 14 SEC wins. 13 probably does. So you got to find 5 wins in 4 more series, right? You got Alabama at home this weekend. And then you got Kentucky on the road, Texas at home, and Oklahoma on the road. So I think you got to find somewhere in those, 12 ball games?
Yeah.
You've got to find 5 wins. And I think 5 probably gets you in with Tennessee's metrics and RPI. And I do think the pitching, the starting pitching, now they're pretty barren in the bullpen come Sunday, or have been. But you're right. You're being able to hit with runners in the scoring position. They got to be better in situational hitting. A couple times you get guys on base, you're swinging at first pitches. The kind of things that, you know, the minutia of baseball sometimes that we don't talk enough about. I still don't think this team's that far off. They don't play home run ball the way Tony's teams did the last few years. But I still think this team is good enough and has the pieces in place if they can get into a regional. Hey, the team they played today, Ole Miss, they won the national championship 3 years ago, and I think were the last team in. I think that team won 13 SEC games that year and got in. So getting hot at the right time and having some pitching, although I don't think Tennessee's as deep on their staff as they have been in past years, but there's still a chance. And I would not I wouldn't write this team off. As I said 2 weeks ago, those people who've jumped off the bandwagon, the seats are going to be taken. If you try to get back on, this team gets hot, don't try to get back on.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, hey, listen, the way I look at it is if I'm gonna look in the rearview mirror, I'm gonna just look at the last game that they played, and that was today, where they averted a sweep, salvaged the series. They jump out to a 7-1 lead. They played with their food a little bit, let the Rebels back in. It was 7-5 at one point, but they used the long ball to pull away. It was nice seeing the bats. They win the game 13-5. Listen to these lines, CeeLo. Levi Clark, who you mentioned, Blake Grimmer, and Henry Ford. Big games for all of them. Grimmer, 4 of 5, 3 home runs, 3 and 6 RBIs. Clark, 3 for 4, 2 two-run homers, a double, and 4 RBIs. And then Henry Ford, 4 of 5, 1 home run, a double, 3 RBIs. So, I mean, those guys just – and offensively, the Vols had more hits in the series finale. They had 14 than they had combined in the Friday and Saturday games, which was only 10 total. So, and Blanco was there, like you said, another strong performance, 6 innings pitched, 8 Ks. Man, if they get hot like that, that's a different looking team, what we saw today for sure.
Yeah, the other guy that got to get going, Bob, is Blaine Brown. He's a guy that started the season on fire. He has scuffled in SEC play, but he's certainly capable, and he's another one, man. You get that back going with the guys you just mentioned. That's what it comes down to. You get late, starts to get a little hotter. You get in the second half of the SEC schedule. Some of those bats get hot. I mean, I go back to Blake Burke. He struggled for a lot of that his second year, but then they got some key hits from him down the stretch. And that's what Tennessee needs from the Levi Clarks, the Blaine Browns, those guys that we know can swing the baseball bat. We know are capable. They just need some momentum. They need some good things to happen. And I look forward to seeing what they can do. Big, you're right. They're all big. But, when you play at home, Tennessee has not played great baseball at home this year, which is crazy because they were dominant for so long. With Bama coming in next weekend, back-to-back home series, that's when you got to figure out a way to win that series. And if you win that series, I like Tennessee's chances of getting in the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean Bama, of course, it was against Texas, but they lost their series this weekend to Texas as well. But that's a good team. They're ranked currently 11th in the country. Mm-hmm. So you go out. Tennessee's got a midweeker against Lipscomb. Should take care of business there, but then go take care of business this weekend, because after this coming weekend against Bama, then they go up to Lexington against Kentucky, and that's kind of a house of horrors for Tennessee baseball, it seems. So got to brace for impact on that one for sure. So last thing as we wrap up very quickly, the orange and white game was last weekend. I think the biggest takeaway there, based on what I've seen, it's not really a game. We've seen some highlights. There's a lot of minutia we could talk about, but the biggest one is, I think for certain it is a very legitimate quarterback competition between George McIntyre and Faison Brandon, based on what we're seeing and based on what we're hearing from Josh Heupel too. Now, he said that last year when Joey Aguilar came on board. I don't think it was really a quarterback competition. This coming off season and summer, I believe it's going to be very much an open competition.
Most coaches, Bob, Dan Marino could come back to play and I could be his competition and they'd say it was a real competition. So yeah. But you're right. And I spent time with Josh before spring ever started, and he assured me that this was going to be a legit competition. And not that he was worried about it, but he felt like he had two guys that you could play their way into being the starter legitimately. Based on what I've heard and talked to, I think Brandon, I want to say he's the odds-on favorite, but I think he comes out of the spring as a guy, if he could continue to hold it together this summer and continue to rally the guys in that locker room and plays well in the preseason. Everybody says, this coach or that coach, Heupel, they're not going to start a freshman quarterback. Listen, I remind you, Josh Heupel started Dylan Gabriel the entire year. Yeah, as a freshman, he was at UCF. So if Brandon is indeed the best guy, and I never go on spring games or spring scrimmages because you're right, you can't tell anything about him. He will start him. He will be the guy, and then it becomes how well they protect him, how well they play around him, and it's same with if it's George McIntyre. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that to me is a bigger question about is the quarterback is whoever it's going to be. It's going to be a guy who has not played on that stage. Who's never been hit in the mouth, who's never been on the road at this kind of competition, who's never been on the road when it's, everybody's against you. How do they respond? But the guys around them have got to really step up and help them. And I think so much of that, too, is defensively, how quickly they pick up on Jim Knowles' system, how much havoc they can wreak, because when his defense has really got it going, man, they are really good at causing chaos and getting after the quarterback. We got to figure out a way, or Tennessee's got to figure out a way to find out what Chaz Coleman's status is. Is he going to be back? I hope everything works out for him. And I think the other thing is the interior on the defensive line. Who are the guys there right in the middle of that defensive line, that can be their enforcers and keep people from running the football? Because I really think offensively they got a chance on the perimeter with the receivers they got coming back to be a team that, can still stretch the field. So, all in all, I would say this about Tennessee. I think there's some questions that need to be answered, but I think in looking at sort of the way Josh reconstructed his staff with Jim Knowles and bringing in a lot of his guys on defense, and I think Derek Owings is the strength coach. They feel a lot better about where they are right now along those lines than they ever did the last year or two, that this is a critical summer, and we'll see how it all, how everything goes. But it's going to be a tough league, man. People say, well, how do you think Tennessee's going to do? Can they get to the playoff? And this is my response to that with just about everybody in the league, with the exception of maybe Texas and Georgia. Going to 9 league games, Bob, adds a whole new layer, right, to being whether or not you're a playoff team or not. And Tennessee plays a non-conference game on the road, a true road game, which they haven't played in a long time. It's been a while since Tennessee's played a true non-conference game on the road. They go to Georgia Tech the second week of the season. This is a harder schedule than Tennessee's had in a while. And I think that certainly as we predict what they will or won't do. I think that's something you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, and I'm with you as far as back to the quarterback. I think it's not to say Brandon's getting the job, but I think for sure, based on what little I've been seeing and everything, I think he's got the higher ceiling. I really do. But time will tell, right? I mean, it just depends on how they perform in the summer workouts. And I think this thing is going to go all the way down to the last week of the month of August before the games begin. So, and he'll be here before we know it. That's the good news. That's the good news. All right, man. Hey, listen, this one was a little bit longer, but for good reason. We had a lot to cover, and we certainly appreciate everybody spending time with us. Again, if you're checking us out on YouTube on the RTI channel, make sure you like and subscribe. If it's a podcast you're listening to, make sure you download us. Make us part of your regular rotation. Thanks to our guest, Terrence Hill Jr. Hopefully we'll be talking to him again now that he is in the fold as a Vol. We also thank our sponsor, as always, the Tate Insurance Group, and certainly appreciate you all listening. CeeLo, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the time. This was fun, as always. It's good to get back on the horse with you.
Yeah, same here, man. Always good to talk Tennessee athletics, whatever else is going on in the athletics world. And so even in April now, thanks for the portal. We have the basketball portal to think now that spring football's over that we still have a lot to talk about.
Sure do. We sure do. Thanks to everybody out there for watching and listening. And we will be looking forward to seeing you right back here next time for the next edition of the RTI Lowdown.